I am the curator of these art talks, and today we are lucky to have the FIU MFA graduate Anna Goraczko. I'm sorry, I tried to pronounce it Goraczko. Anna Goraczko here with us to talk about her practice. She's a multimedia artist who works in painting, installation, and printmaking. Her work is in the Frost Art Museum. She just returned from a wonderful residency, which I'm excited to hear about. And then her work can also be seen in the Florida Biennial, which is up at the Hollywood Art and Cultural Center. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. So please join me in welcoming Anna here tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to start tonight's presentation with this quote because I think as I was putting together this presentation, I felt like, and I want to thank Colette for asking me to share my experience about my recent residency and the biennial. And so when I was putting this all together, that was kind of the thread of my whole experience and something that's a steadfast theme in my work is this idea of connection. And so I want to start with talking about the residency, which I applied. I was aware of this residency when I was in grad school. I graduated with my master's in 2020, and I was looking into residencies. I found this residency on the site Artists Alliance and Communities, but I just kind of put it down and wasn't really thinking about it. And then when the COVID pandemic came and there was we weren't doing much, I thought, oh, because this is a solo residency, maybe I'll apply to it. So the Hypatia-in-the-Woods residency, it's based in Shelton, Washington, and the residence is called the Holly House. It's a private residence that someone basically just devoted and put in their will to be used as an artist residency. And this one is focused on women and women artists and of all disciplines. So there's poets and performance artists, visual artists, and it's just the cabin is for your use for 2 weeks, and you can do whatever you want. So it's kind of like a self-directed program. And like I said, I found it through the Artist Communities Alliance website. And if you're a student or if you're interested, that website is really good for finding those opportunities. You can filter out what you're looking for in a residency, and it kind of filters and narrows it down to the residency for you. So I was initially attracted to this place because it sounded like it would be like a place of solitude, and I would be able to get my work done, and it wasn't too far from Olympia, which is where one of my former roommate and one of my friends lives now, and she had moved back there. And so I thought, oh, well, at least I have someone nearby to hang out with, or to visit with. And so Shelton is like this rural town, and in the description of the residency they mentioned you would need a car to get around. And so that's kind of what had me thinking, well, how am I going to get there, and am I going to rent a car, am I going to fly, how am I going to do this if I were to do it? And in my previous work, I work mostly right now in cyanotypes, which are sun prints, and it's a form of photography that are using objects. You can print different images. And that's what I was working with primarily at this time when I applied for this residency. And so my proposal was that I would take this trip across the country and in these different places collect objects or items to kind of mark each place or like the journey along the way. And that was what I submitted to the residency, was that I would use this trip as a way to kind of map out the journey with these different items. And so I figured out that like it would take a while to get there, and so I kind of started thinking about who would I want to see on this trip, because I have an aunt in Houston, I have an aunt in Santa Fe, and so that kind of just, it started to develop in that way. And then my good friend here, Malika, her family is in Tacoma, Washington. So it felt like, hey, do you want to come with me on this trip? Like, I need a co-pilot. Like, this could be fun. And she said yes. And the residency people loved my idea, and you know, so it was just like, okay, yes. I was getting all these yeses, and then I was just like, okay, so how am I gonna do this? Like, how am I gonna go across the country? How am I gonna, you know, map this out, pick the places? Not only that, before getting to those planning stages, how am I gonna fund this? You know, I am an artist who doesn't receive institutional support yet, so I'm like an independent artist, like doing my own thing. Like, I applied for this and I got it, and then it was just like, how am I gonna do this? And I had applied for some grants, and I didn't get them. But I started to offer cyanotype workshops in the community, and so I reached out to Ronald and asked if I could do, from Laundromat Art Space, and asked if I could do a cyanotype workshop there. And so that helped me fund, you know, start fundraising. I participated in the gift shop project by Yi-Chin. If you're familiar with her, she's also an FIU alumni. And so I had all this work that I had done with that project, so I created this gift shop fundraiser, and I was selling mugs and calendars and tote bags, and I was also offering raffles, which is something that I normally do now. It's kind of like a part of my practice, is just to raffle off a piece of art, and a lot of my supporters are into that because it's a low fee and a chance to win art, and if you don't win, you still support an artist, so that's nice. So so I had all of these fundraising activities going on, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that I had a lot of support, and I was able to come up with the funds for the trip. And so we took off. We left July 25th, and we went across the country. We left really early in the morning. That was our first photo. We left at like 6 a.m. that morning, and Malika was awesome in documenting me as I collected the items in the different places, and I was cataloging all the different objects for my cyanotypes. And our first stop and our first goal that we agreed upon was that we needed to get out of Florida, because that was going to be the longest stretch. And as I was part of my fundraising activities, I kind of got schooled in how to like market and promote, and one of my friends was saying, you have to post about this every single day. You have to say what you're doing. You have to say, you know, so like along the way, I was just sharing all this information, and my mentor and former professor at FIU, Nick Gilmore, he reached out to me, and he offered up his parents' place in Alabama, Fairhope, Alabama. So this is like one of the things that I think is an important thing to note, is like, I never know like what relationships are going to be like, or how they're going to materialize, but I formed this relationship with Nick as my mentor, and he just offered this place so, you know, it was like this amazing opportunity to go and see like his parents have a place to stay and like get that support from him, you know, was really, really nice. So I would say if you're a student and, you know, you have a professor that you're interested, like you have a relationship, like keep fostering that relationship, because, you know, like you get support in the future, not just in school when you're enrolled. So so we stopped at his parents' place, and it was a beautiful property, and we got to watch the sunset the first night. That was really nice. And then I'm kind of gonna go through like more quickly with the rest of the journey, but these are just some of the highlights. So along the way, I'm collecting things, visiting my aunt, checking the oil every day as my dad requested, and you know, enjoying the journey, you know, having like time with my friend, conversations, and experiencing new landscapes. We stopped at the Arches National Park in Moab, Utah, which was incredible. If you have not gone to Utah, you need to go to Utah. Like, just plan it, because it's unreal. It's not like anything I have ever seen, and it's just beautiful. So we were able to go to that park, and we see things along the way on the journey that like we weren't used to, like windmills and dust devils and all this kind of stuff. This piece on the left-hand side will come up later. This is a piece from my Aunt Joan's, her art studio, and so I collected that piece to put in the cyanotypes. And then more pictures of us. Oh, this is like my Malika appreciation post, like slide. Yeah, I think that was one of the really special things about the trip, was to have someone with me to experience the journey with, to have someone to talk to, and to like work out things like life's questions, like, are there free cows? Like, are there any wild cows out there? You know, like, we had all these weird questions that popped up, and just like thinking, and you know, seeing all this new stuff together was really, really awesome. And she did a great job at being a navigator and entertainment. And then, so the last, on the far right, that's our delirious state of like finally reaching the destination in Seattle, and that was 7 days later. And then I was dropped in the middle of the woods at this residency, and the folks from the residency, someone met me at like the local fire station, because the residence was like totally off the map, and so she met me and drove me, and I was like driving, but also like writing down, oh, left at the red mailbox and whatever, because it was just like, you know, I was like, I don't want to get lost. And so the residence is about, once you get off the highway, you go down this 5-mile road, and then you go down another like 3-mile road, and then you hit the dirt road, and you go for like another mile down the dirt road, and then that's where the house was, at the end of this peninsula. And there was one other house next to me, so I had a neighbor close by, and you know, on first sight, everything is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm finally there, and so I start to settle in, and so it was a very cute cabin, like the basic amenities were cared for, and I went out on a walk the next day, and there's all these like cedar fir trees, and this was from a walk that I had done at the residency in the living room. by the couch, there's all these journals on the table there, and there's the artists that previously were there would write all their suggestions of things to do, what to look out for, and one of the things was, there were 3 different people that said the same thing, that to go beyond this no trespassing sign and like go down to the end of this road, and there's gonna be seals, and you know, this, like, they painted the picture of like, I don't know what, but it's just like, I want to see seals. And so I did what they said, and I regretted it immediately because it just felt like I shouldn't have been there. But I collected a piece of sea moss from that excursion, and from then on I like kind of started to, it kind of sunk in that like I'm out in the woods, and like I'm a city girl. I'm from Miami, so so it was peaceful, and it looked pretty, and then it quickly became this like fearful experience of being out in nature, right? And once the sun went down, it was completely dark, and then like I discovered like pretty soon after that I had a mouse in my car, and it was really scary, and like I can laugh at it now because it's over, but it was just like all of these experiences of like being put out in the middle of the woods was just like, I thought it would be peaceful, but it just like struck me, like, you know, it got to me. So I didn't let it get to me fully though, because I had work to do. So I just funneled all that energy into, okay, you said you were going to do this project, let's get started. And so I pulled out all of the things that I collected on the journey, and I just got to work, and I started printing. So the far right picture is, there was this deck off of the house, and that's primarily where I did my cyanotypes. And you see like that piece that the sun piece, on the left hand side in the third picture, that's when I was printing that one. This far left one is the ginkgo from the ginkgo tree at Nick's, in Nick's yard in Fairhope, Alabama. And so, and then like any kind of light that I could find in the driveway, I would use, because the house was completely surrounded by trees, and to make cyanotypes, you need full sun. And so, it was an interesting journey, like adjusting to all these different things. And you know, one of the things that I discovered was, you know, working with this medium is like different exposure times. So the sun in Miami is like super powerful. If you put out a cyanotype, it takes like 5 minutes to print what you're working with, and it took a little bit longer in Washington. So the exposure time that would normally be 5 minutes was more like 10 to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, leaving the items out in the sun. And I'll just show you some of the work that came from that. So this is a piece of Malika's hair that in Houston, Texas, we had gotten coffee and breakfast, and she was just kind of grooming herself, and then like her hair came out, and I was like, give me that. And so like that was one of the first ones that I printed. There's the sun piece that I collected from my Aunt Joan's house, and on the left, those are all plants from the hotel we stayed at in Boise, Idaho. I basically did a frantic like clip when we were there, but they had really cool plants outside the hotel. This is the ginkgo plant that's from Nick's family's yard, and one of the things I picked this plant in his yard because his mother was telling me that she planted that tree in his yard 25 years prior to that. So I'm thinking, like, a lot of my work and what I'm thinking about when I'm making my work is thinking about the crossing of timelines. And so we're here now, this plant has been here for 25 years and it was cultivated by, you know, his mother, and just thinking about all of that and like how long it takes for that to be imprinted on here, and that's kind of just what goes on when I'm thinking about the things that I collected, just thinking about all that kind of thing. And then, so there was no fee for the residency, however they asked that you offer a workshop, and so I offered a cyanotype workshop in exchange for staying at the residency, and this was done at the local library, the Shelton library in town, and I was really excited to see people and be around people at this point. And I had been like visiting my friend, but it was just like really nice. Like when I do these workshops, it's a really great way to like have that sense of community and like sharing this technique. So I did the workshop about a week into the residency. This is my friend Marcy, who lived there in Olympia, and that's her baby Jax, and we're cyanotyping his little feet there. Here's a little feature I had in the local newspaper. Like, I was a local celebrity in the rural town. My friend Marcy and I went to the Mount Rainier National Park, and that was really beautiful and breathtaking. Another place that I suggest you go. And so then like I made all these different prints of the stuff that I had made, but also like coming to terms with like not being totally comfortable. And so I just put all of that stuff into my work, and like it was interesting because like I can just tunnel vision and do my work, and like none of those feelings could affect me. But if I wasn't doing my artwork, it would be like I was really jumpy, you know, and I was really nervous about what was going on outside. But I was thinking, I was exploring and seeing new things. Like this is a banana slug. I had never seen one of those before. And I really had an opportunity to dig deeper into my practice in terms of going beyond the objects and imprinting objects, and thinking about photography, like my photography, the film, like the images from the trip, and so the piece on the far right is kind of like this collage of all of this like juxtaposition of fear and pleasure, and like how that is like kind of wrapped in together at the same time, like simultaneously these things are happening, and just thinking about, you know, how, like showing that, how do I express that, and these are these moments of fear and moments of like exhilaration and exploration at the same time. So after the trip to Mount Rainier, I started to, and I think the workshop kind of like broke my my intense uncomfortability, but I started to think about like the shape of mountains and the shape of how like, and my body, and like the shape, my shapes, and like that, like, and one of the things that like I really came to terms with is like that I am a part of nature, you know, and I'm not, And I wasn't thinking about that before I really went there, you know, like, I guess it was just not, you know, it's not at the top of my mind, but it started to shift to where I'm like, how do I see myself as a part of this, in this grand landscape and this scheme of things? Like, where do I fit in? And I'm like connected to all of this that's going around me. And so I just imagine like, okay, what would my silhouette look like if it were like placed like mountains? And so that's, I began to start printing these self-portraits in the hopes that like I would be able to get like that kind of idea, like that my body is just like the mountains, and that I am like the embodiment of that nature. So that's, this piece is actually right now at the University of Central Oklahoma. They're showing a photography self-portrait exhibition, and that's opening tonight actually in Oklahoma. And so she's there, and then so there's a couple of other pieces in the series, but this one came out of that as well. And so it's just really about me relinquishing that fear and like and exploring like what it means for me to be a part of this of nature and the world, and how do I fit in with that. And this was my attempt to like kind of connect that, you know. So these three self-portraits are all about 7 feet by 5 feet, and they are on this pre-treated cyanotype fabric. So the cool thing about cyanotype is like you can mix up your own batch. You can also get these pre-treated fabrics where you kind of are guaranteed like this full saturation of the fluid that creates the imprints. And so that's what these are all on, is this pre-treated fabric. And so that was kind of like, that had kind of wrapped up my experience at the residency, and I had to come back home. But so on my way back home, I had been in touch with my another professor who I had had a class with in New York, and I had done a summer intensive studies at Parsons School of Design, and she taught in my undergrad and drawing and painting, and we just stayed in touch over the years. Nothing like, just, you know, through Facebook and an email every now and then. But when she saw that I was going across the country, she offered for me to go to her house in Abiquiu, New Mexico, where she said, do a workshop here and make some money for your trip back home. And so that was like the next stretch, was to get there and do that. But first I had to go down the coast of California. So it took me 10 days to get back home, and these are the cities that I went to, and I pretty much picked them, one because I had a relative in Los Angeles, but I figured I'm already out here, so like, let's see some really cool stuff. So so first and how I mapped each one of these places, they were all these trips are kind of like, I'm thinking into 7-hour increments, so I wasn't like too overwhelmed. That was the same with the way there. Just thinking, just like going to the place, sleeping, and keep going, and that was what I kind of did on the way back. And on this trip, I had a friend who was off work, and she met me in San Francisco. So I went from Medford to San Francisco. We got to see the sunset at the Golden Gate Bridge, and then the sunrise in Los Angeles, and we drove across the coast of, we took Highway 1 down the coast of California, and that is my cousin on the far right. I met my cousin for the first time in person, and then we went from Los Angeles to the Grand Canyon, again, like, go see the Grand Canyon. It wasn't originally in my plans, but it was another one of those things that was just like, you're out there, so just do it. And so I did it, and it was wonderful. So from there, we went to New Mexico, and that's kind of where we parted ways. And this is the second residency that I participated in. And Abiquiu is about an hour outside of Santa Fe, and if you're not aware, it's where Georgia O'Keeffe had her house and painted a lot of her paintings, and that's where also my Professor Hillary, who's in the bottom right slide, lives, and she had just made her move full-time to this residence in Abiquiu. And it was a really cool house because you can't see it from the road. You like pull off and then you go down these stairs, and that's kind of where her house is, down in the ground. And it was just a really nice way to like reconnect with her. And then she offered me to conduct another cyanotype workshop. So she had a newsletter that she blasted out and like sent it to the Abiquiu local newspaper, and we got some folks to come out, and it was really fun. My aunt and uncle are on the right there, and it was just a beautiful day, the mountains, and each time I do one of these workshops, someone will either ask something or bring something different that I hadn't even ever thought that you could do, and it just helps me so much to like expand my thinking and what my practice could actually be, or like what the possibilities of the medium of cyanotypes even is. And so yeah, that woman in the middle, she made that piece in the middle where she like kind of traced this image onto this tracing paper, and it was transparent, and it's almost like she like knew what was going to happen, but she taught me a new technique with that one, and then I also got to share the work that I had made at the residency in Washington, and pull these self-portraits out and really take a look at them and talk about them and digest everything I had just done. So that was Abiquiu, and then after that I was pretty much on the road by myself for the rest of the way home, and that took me 3 or 4 days to get back home. But that whole experience was just like so rich and so rewarding and fulfilling to me personally, but also to my practice, and also in reconnecting with all these people. And then Colette had asked me to talk a little bit about my work at the Florida Biennial. So the Florida Biennial is at the Art and Culture Center in Hollywood, Florida, and it's going to be up through February 5th, and it's a wonderful exhibition. And the piece that I have in the show is a smaller piece. It's 8 inches by 8 inches, but this is my mama's hands and my hands, and this is from a series where I am seeking a connection to my grandmother, and so I started to take my photography and looking through my family's archives, take some of the photography that we had and juxtapose them, kind of in an effort to feel like we were kind of like convening in this space together, and we were doing the same thing or a similar thing. Also thinking about what are her hands doing and what are my hands doing, you know? And so that's what this piece is really about. It's just like connecting back with her and our hands kind of being in this space together in this way. This work is me and my friends and her friends. And so I'm thinking about, like, I took the photo from the archive, and this photo is from my cell phone, and so I'm also thinking about the different modes of technology that we're using, the amount of time that it took to process the first photograph. I believe that was probably from the late 30s, 40s, and then this like really quick immediate image, but just like connecting that, like, we're doing the same thing, you know, and just to try, in an effort to try to feel closer to her. This one is her posing by a tree and me posing by a tree. I just kind of went through all of the archives that, the physical archives of old photos of her, and tried to find these images of, like, what, did I do that? Am I doing that? Is there is there, I didn't, like, I'd taken that picture a long time ago. So it was just like kind of trying to put us together. And this one, I'm with my niece kayaking, and she's in her boat, her canoe there. And then the last one is, which I thought was really cool, is like when she graduated, she had someone take a picture of her outside, and this is me in the quarantine, like, pool, because I graduated in 2020, and we didn't have a ceremony because it was not safe to have a ceremony. So I had my little ceremony outside in the kiddie pool that we got for the yard. And so that was kind of like the connection there too, I thought was pretty cool. And I have shows coming up, and currently I'm in the biennial, and then I'm going to be in the Pine and Palm Coral Springs Museum of Art December 15th, and then next year I'm going to have a solo exhibition at the Frank. And for the Pine and Palm exhibition, I'll be showing one of the larger cyanotypes, the 5-foot by 7-foot pieces in that show. And so, if you would like more information about whatever I'm doing, here you go. And that's all I have.
Questions?
Do you have a question?
Yeah. While you were in Washington, did you go outside at night to look at the stars?
No.
No?
I did not.
You spent all that time there, you didn't look at the stars? You could actually see stars there.
Well, I didn't
You weren't
feel comfortable
thinking
going
about-
outside there. But when I was in New Mexico with my professor in New Mexico, on her roof, which I think you saw already, but on her roof, you can walk up those, there's like a pathway that goes up there, and then you can get on her roof, and we went up there and we stargazed. It was a little cloudy, but we stargazed there. I wasn't about to go outside by myself in Washington. Once I was in the house at night, I was like in the house, and that was it. Any other questions?
How many days was it sunny in Washington?
That was my question.
Washington is
Oh, yeah,
like the worst
yeah.
place probably to do a cyanotype.
Well, I had reached out to the residency board and like requested July to August because that was when I felt like it would be sunny. Because my friend Marcy, who was nearby, she had gotten married the year before, and I was like, oh, it's actually sunny, and so it was sunny pretty much every day. There was only 2 days where it was rainy, but the rest of the time it was sunny. So I think in the summer in Washington,
it's one of our best kept secrets. So July, so like the June 2nd till about September 1st, like it doesn't rain.
You can turn off your anti-depression lights.
Yeah. Which is why the hotels are super expensive, rental cars are super expensive because it's like here in December for those 3 months.
Mm.
See what I have. But it's not a strong sun.
Oh, and that picture on the top right, is that a river?
yeah, that is, Hillary took me down to Ghost Ranch. So this is just one of the rivers that we drove past. And she took me up to Georgia O'Keeffe's house and kind of drove around that neighborhood, which is about the size of, I don't know, it's just like it felt so small, like it was just kind of a one little loop and it was over. But you have to make an appointment to go into the Georgia O'Keeffe house and visit. It's not like open. It was interesting. It's out in the middle of nowhere, which again felt a little strange. And you know, the people out there are out there for a reason because they don't want to be around people. So that was another interesting learning experience. But I'm glad that I did learn that. What I don't like. It's important to learn what you don't like in order to get closer to what you do like.
So speaking about what you do like, what are you working on now?
Right now,
Like what's the next?
yeah, right now I want to continue the series of the of these portraits. I'm not sure. I'm researching right now. Wait, where's my other ones? I'm researching right now other things I want to do within this series, and I'm also thinking about different layering methods and stuff like that. But this, I want to kind of push this project and like expand it more. Just thinking about bodies and how they, you know, like just the imagery. I think in my work, what I like is when, like, the cyanotypes have this amazing ability to create this like kind of like otherworldly sense, and like the abstract nature of it is just so I wanna continue this project with the self-portraits and maybe some other portraits of other bodies.
During the pandemic, I saw you were doing these beautiful abstract geometric paintings. Can you talk about that a bit? Are you still doing those at all? Or?
No, not really. Yeah, so my background in my undergrad and the work that I did was geometric paintings, and when I was in 2020, when I graduated, like I went back to that genre because it was just like easy and like familiar, and like so I did a lot of those paintings during the pandemic, but at a certain point when I had to focus on one medium for me, because I was starting to get confused about like, you know, what was I really, like, which one did I want to dedicate more time to, and I just felt like I didn't have enough focus on the cyanotypes to be able to go deeper, especially in terms of the like bringing in the like my photography, the archival materials and stuff like that. So it's not gone forever. I paint with a woman twice a week, and so she paints her paintings and then I paint mine, but it's just more for fun at this point.
But they're all for sale.
Thanks, Dad.
She's got a bunch of them, so you need to put that online. Get rid
Dad,
of them.
we're good, Dad.
Interested in your photography practice? Because obviously, you know, I mean, obviously you have that as one of your, in your skill set. It's very, as a talent. And I didn't know this until I saw it here. And it's two things. It's as a photographer, you know, as a, you know, landscape photographer and as a event photographer, but also how you take the photos with cyanotypes. Because to me, for me, trying to take a photo of cyanotypes doesn't work. You know, I mean, it's not just, you know, it's not just snap and go. So what can you expound on this?
Right, yeah, it is not just snap and go. So these, for instance, the process of developing these prints, you have to create a film negative. And so the process requires that, so I have the picture and then in the computer I do a negative, I have a negative generator. So I
Yes.
get the negative image and I print it on transparent film paper. And so then that becomes like my film sheet. And then that can be printed on the cyanotype to create the positive image. So while I was at the residency, and these two are examples of that, I kind of created this station where it was just like I had my printer, I had a laminator, and it was just like taking it's like this swirl of like taking the photo from my phone, sending it to my email, going to my laptop, making a negative image, printing it from the computer, and then I found that in order to preserve the film sheet, I got a laminator, and then that sealed the ink in the pocket.
And you do that
So
right away, or do you let it dry first?
I let it dry first. I did have you can kind of see it, maybe I'll just go to my website. Oh, I don't have, well, so there's a, I forgot, I didn't set up my thing, but with the text, for instance, there were, in some pieces it smudged. So like in this piece, for instance, this was just like a thin line, and then when I put it through the laminator, it smudged, and then it kind of created its own font. You know what I mean, with the smearing. So I was playing with that too as well. So and you can kind of see that at the top left, that was text that was smeared. So I was experimenting with all that, those processes of using the laminator to kind of like smear things and make more abstract